No time for an introduction. Let's go ahead and get into it. Today we're going to be talking about Mary Beth Tinning. Born in Duanesburg, New York, as a child she tried to unalive herself several times. She went on a blind date when she was older with her future husband Joe. They got married in 1965 and moved to Schenectady, New York. They wasted no time in hunching and started popping out the kids. 1968 they gave birth to their first child Barbara. 1970 they gave birth to their second child Joseph. 1971 they gave birth to their third child Jennifer. Now Jennifer was sick from birth and unfortunately 8 days later she passed away in the hospital. And the doctors were like, "Oh no, that's perfectly normal." Now 3 weeks after Jennifer, their second child Joseph passed away suddenly and the doctors were like, "Oh no, that's perfectly normal." 6 weeks after Joseph, their first child, Barbara, passed away suddenly, and the doctors were like, "Oh no, that's perfectly normal." She went from 3 kids to 0 in less than 2 months, and they just like, you know what? It happens. Thanksgiving the next year, in 1973, they had their 4th child, and he passed away a few weeks later on December 10th. And once again, the doctors were like, "Oh no, that's perfectly normal." On March the 30th of 1975, they received their 5th gift from the Lord, Nathan. Now, unfortunately, she did not want that gift, and so she sent him back to the Lord September of that same year. And once again, the doctors were like, "Oh no, that's perfectly normal." Now, don't get me wrong, people were getting suspicious at this point in time, because, bitch, you had 5 kids. But did they try to stop her, though? No, they did not. August of 1978, they adopted a child named Michael, knowing that his day was coming. A couple months after they adopted Michael, in October, they popped out another kid, a 6th one, Mary. Now, Mary was born in October. That January the following year, she brought Mary to the hospital saying she's not breathing. The doctor saved her life and then sent the child back out with her. Now, Mary Beth's a smart girl, so she was like, you know what? If I didn't do it the first time, I'm going to try again. And so February, she did it. Now, all this talk of death, Mary Beth just got so horny. So that same year, they had another child. He popped a 7th child out the coochie, Jonathan. Now, keep in mind, Michael was still alive. The adopted boy, he was alive at this point. Not for long, but he was. Now, Jonathan was born in November, but by March, Mary Beth got him up out of there. A year after that, 1981, they got that adopted boy up out of there too. In August of 1985, they gave birth to their 9th child, Tammy. By December, she was gone. They finally put the pieces together and arrested the girl, but she only got 31 years in prison. She's alive and living her life in Schenectady, New York to this day. Crazy, right? No time for introduction. Let's go ahead and get into it. Today we're going to be talking about Clyde Wendell Smith. On November the 7th, 1992, this man named Johnny Smith owned a liquor store in Sidon, Mississippi. It was just a regular day. He was doing what he always does, and at some point his son actually came into the store to talk to his dad. Now, while he was inside talking to his dad outside of the store, the police were doing their regular rounds. One of the police officers that was doing their regular rounds was actually the brother of Johnny Smith. And while the brother was just doing his rounds around, the city, he just so happened to notice there was a red car with 2 men sitting right beside the store. And as they drove by the red car, the 2 men slid down on their seats. That to me seems like a red flag, but technically nothing had happened. They hadn't done anything, so they ultimately just chalked it up as weirdos and kept it moving. Now the police, they left, and around 9 p.m., a little after 9, between 9 and 10, the son actually was leaving the store, and as he was leaving the store, he saw 2 men walk into the store. And minutes after his son left the store, his father was shot 3 times, 2 of those shots being fatal. The 2 men made away with the cash drawer, the extra cash drawer, and a handgun that was owned by Mr. Smith. After they got the goods, they peeled out of there. As you guessed it, one of the men was this guy right here. The other guy was called Jerome. I don't know who Jerome is. And what better way to celebrate murder and robbery than with some good old-fashioned drugs? So these 2, they picked up their lady friend a little later on that night. And around 2 p.m., they all kind of had a party. Now, when I say party, I mean... I feel great! Like they was getting turned. Now look, after they had enough booger sugar, they assaulted their lady friend. And when they had their fun with it, they just kicked out the car. It's really sad that they did it to her. She didn't deserve that. But that's kind of what happens when you put two human testicles together. Now, in Isola, Mississippi, around 3 a.m., there was a police officer that noticed their car leaving a service station. And so he pulled them over after he noticed they were bobbing and weaving. Now, the article said that he recognized them. I don't know if he actually knew them personally or if he recognized them from like EMP or BPP, whatever they call them things being sent out, which I highly doubt the second one, because if he recognized them from that, he would have arrested them. So I think he actually knew them. But he let them go, and he did alert other police officers to keep an eye out for them because, they were acting nervous when he pulled them. Now, when the other officers put it together, they found them, chased them to a field, and they ran off. Inside the vehicle, they found a sawed-off shotgun and the keys to Mr. Smith's liquor store. So at that point, it was cut and wrap. Thoughts and prayers to the family, but this guy is still in the Mississippi Department of Corrections on death row to this day. Crazy, right? No time for introduction. Let's go ahead and get into it. Tonight we're going to be talking about Joseph Patrick Brown. On August 8th, 1992, Joseph and his girlfriend Rachel, they were actually riding around Natchez, Mississippi. It was a beautiful night, and they kind of come to the conclusion, what a better way to end the night than with some drugs. Now, there's really not a word on what type of drugs they were trying to buy, but I guess it's not important. Now, that same night, Miss Martha Day was actually at work at her job at the Charter Food Store in Natchez, Mississippi. For her, it was just a regular workday working the night shift. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Now, at some point during the night, Joseph actually walked into their store, and he most likely gave off the illusion that he was just a regular paying customer, looking at the chips, looking at the milk. Now, Martha was used to working in these type of conditions, so she most likely didn't pay that much attention to Joseph as he walked around the store. But at some point, Joseph did finally come to the cash register, and he began to start up a conversation with Martha. Now, from outside the store, Rachel was sitting inside the car. She had driven both of them to the store, and she mostly was just waiting for Joseph to come out of the store. She looked around, didn't notice anything out of the ordinary in particular, and then she looked in through the window into the store, and that's where she saw Joseph pointing a gun at Martha. Martha then clutched her chest. Her face was filled with pain. She fell over and she died. But he didn't just shoot her once. He shot her in the head, the heart, and 2 times in the back. Now our good friend Joseph, he runs out of the store. He's coming into the car. He has a gun in his hand and the cash register in the other hand. He gets inside, opens the door, sits down, closes the door, and he looks at Rachel and he goes, "If you love me, you won't say anything." Sounds like a freaking fairy tale. But anyway, inside the cash register, there was a $2 bill. They used this $2 bill and they went and guess what? They purchased some drugs. And after they enjoyed all the pleasures of drugs that a $2 bill could buy, they did the next best thing. They purchased more drugs. They were high as kites all day. They must not have had so much money inside the cash register because they purchased those drugs by selling the .22 caliber pistol that they used to kill Martha with. And the police took their time to get the gun and the $2 bill back. 3 days later, on August the 11th, they were both arrested. And while they was in jail, they were sending like love letters back and forth to each other, saying stuff like, "We can get through this. Be strong and we can get through this together. Don't say nothing and they don't got nothing on us." But when the police asked Rachel what happened, he did it. And so he was sentenced to lethal injection. And to this day, he's still sitting in the Mississippi Department of Corrections on death row. Crazy, right?